Hey guys, Mr. Mathwiz here with lesson 3 of our proportional relationships unit. So we've been working a lot with ratios and proportions, and also we worked on the last couple lessons with our new equations that kind of gave us some shortcuts. Some of you have really enjoyed those. Some of you have stuck to the proportions. That's fine. I do want to make sure you understand both ways though, and once you're solving a problem, it's really up to you. But I do think the equations a lot of times do save you a lot of time and effort. So that's why we've been pushing them and I've been introducing them to you. All right, so what I want to talk about now is another way to save more time and another way to save more effort. So this lesson that we're going into talks a lot about taxes. So in Greenville, we have a 6% sales tax. That means that when you go to the store and you buy something, it doesn't cost at the register the same thing it said on the sticker on the shelf. They actually add 6% to it. That 6% goes back to the city of Greenville, and that's the money that they use to make our town better, right? So here's how we've been talking about doing it. So if I gave you a problem and I said, I'm going to spend $80 at the store, and I want to know, so I'm spending $80, and I want to know how much is it actually going to cost when I get to the register, right? So the product said it costs $80 on the shelf. I want to know how much it's going to cost when I pay for it, which means I have a 6% sales tax, right? So the way we've been doing it is we know that 6% is also a fraction. So it can be written as 6 over 100. So this is the proportion method. And then we know that $80 is my original, right? Or my whole. So it's going to go down at the bottom with the 100. So to solve it using our proportions, I would do this, and then I can use my butterfly method to multiply across my opposite corners. So x would equal 6 times 80. And then I divide the other piece that's left over, which is the 100. And that will give me my final answer. So 6 times 80 divided by 100. And that gives me 4.8. So in this case, my sales tax would be $4.80, because remember we're talking about money. So 4.8 would be $4.80. So if the question asked you though, if instead of asking you what was the sales tax, if the question asked you, how much do I pay at the register, which, let's be honest, that's what I want to know, right? When I go up to the register, I don't really care how much the tax is. I want to know how much am I paying? How much do I owe the person, right? So to figure this out, we would have to add one more little step to it, right? So now we would take that $4.80, which we know is our tax, and we take the $80, which was the original, and we have to add them together. So my $80, I have my $4.80, that gets added together, and I end up with $84.80. So that's how much I'll have to pay the cashier when I buy my product. It said $80 on the sticker or on the sign, but when I get to the register, it actually costs $84.80. So that's using the 6% tax that we have here in Greenville. All right, so solving it with proportions, I would do it that way. The other way that we did it in our class would be if I was to use the equation, right? So with the equation, I would want to know what 6% of 80 was. So let me change colors so we can keep these distinct. I'll use orange this time. So if I wanted to know what 6% of $80 was, the way that we've done it with the equation is I first have to turn 6% into a decimal, which means I take that 6 and I move it. When I go from percentage to decimal, I move it 2 places to the left, right? So my final answer there would be 0.06. So that's 6% written as a decimal. So I take 0.06 and I multiply it by 80. Remember, our equation was the percent as a decimal. Sorry about the handwriting. Percent as a decimal times our whole gave us our part. That was the equation, and it should be written on your equation sheet. This is very hard to write. There we go. Percent as a decimal times whole equals part. So in this case, 0.06 is our percent, 80 is our whole. So our part would be multiplying those two together. So I would have 0.06 times 80 gives me 4.8. 4.8. And since we're talking about money, we know that actually means $4.80, which is exactly the same thing I got up here, right? So same answer, two different ways to get it. But of course, my final answer, I want to know how much I'm paying at the register. So I would have to take my $80 and add $4.80, just like we did before, right? So I'm not saving any time there. I still have to add the number at the end. All right. So in both of these cases, we figured out the $4.80 first, and then we added it to $80. And that works fine. It just, the only thing is that we have to remember to add it at the end, right? So the way I'm going to show you now actually takes that into effect right away. So instead of adding at the end, we're actually going to do a little addition at the beginning. All right, so here's what I mean by that. When we do our proportions, let me change colors so you can see what I'm doing again. I'm going to use red this time. All right, so when we did our proportion up here, we knew that $80 represents, it matches the 100, because the 100 is actually 100%, right? And the 6 represents 6%. 100% means the whole part, right? 100% means the complete thing. So $80 here was the whole, the original. So what we were looking for was the original, this part right here, the $84.80, which represents the original plus the tax. That's the original plus tax, which means that this final answer here is actually 100% plus, oh, sorry for the sloppy plus sign, plus that 6%, right? 100% plus 6%. So our final answer of $84.80 is actually 106% of the original. All right, think about that. Because the $80 represents the 100, and our answer of $4.80 that we came up with here matched with the 6% that we had up here, right? So the $4.80 was the 6%, and the $80 was the 100%. I want you to hold on to that thought, and then I'm going to show you how we could have done that early on. So instead of adding at the end, what we could have done is, instead of calculating what is 6% of 80, instead of trying to figure that out, we could have, and I'm going to change colors again to keep things straight. Let's go with purple. We could have said, what is 106% of 80? So solving for 106% of $80 tells me this is going to be my final cost, everything said and done. I don't have to add anything at the end, because 106% of 80 means it's the original plus the tax. So we're talking original plus tax. So that gives me, if I'm solving it, I have two different ways I can solve it, just like before. So 106% would be written as 106 over 100, because you always write your percents over 100. And 100 represents the whole, it represents the original. So 80 still goes on the bottom. And now I'm looking for this piece here. So if I solve it, I'm getting x equals, I'm multiplying my opposites, 106 times 80. And then I divide it from my other piece, 100. So 106 times 80 plus 100. Watch, check this out. 106 plus, oh, I'm sorry, not supposed to be plus, supposed to be times. 106 times 80 divided by 100 gives me 84.8. 84.8, which I know, because we're talking about money, actually means $84.80. Well, look at that, $84.80. What did I get up here? $84.80. What did I get over here? $84.80. So instead of taking and figuring out what the tax was and then adding it to my original, I figured out the final total with all I had to do was use 106 instead of 6%. And it's real easy to add 100 to 6% because I'm just putting, 100 plus 6 is 106. Adding things to 100 is pretty straightforward usually, which is why this is a lot of times the quicker way to do it. Because it was a lot easier for me to do the addition of what is 100 plus 6. Oh, that's not 6. That's not 100 either. Sorry, guys. It's easier for me to do 100 plus 6 than for me to do some other number plus the tax. Now, in this case, it wasn't that hard because it was 80 and it was 480, right? So that's not too hard. But sometimes you may have something that's not exactly 80. What if it had been 79.99, right? Then you'd have to worry about all the little nines, and you'd have to carry things, and it'd be kind of messy. But doing that 100 plus 6 was actually really easy. I just gave me that 106 that I was able to put it in my proportion and get my final answer. So that's how you do it with proportions. You can also use the same thing and do the addition at the beginning. So if I'm trying to figure out what is 106, let me change color again. Let's go with blue. If I'm trying to figure out what 106% of 80 is, of $80, I can change 106 to a decimal. So I'm using my decimal times whole equals part. There's an invisible decimal point right there that you don't see normally after 106. I move it 2 places to the left. So that gives me 1.06 times 80. This is the one that I use most of the time because I find this the easiest. So remember my first step was I turned the 6% that I was looking for into 106%, which means it's going to include the original. And then I took 1.06 times 80 equals, and this is super quick and easy, 106, oops, I forgot my decimal point. Gotta watch yourselves. 1.06 times 80 equals 84.8. 84.8. Which, because we're dealing with money, means $84.80. Once again, same answer as before, same answers that we had up here. Right? So all of this, I just gave you 4 different ways to solve the exact same problem. So I hope you're not getting cross-eyed. So all of these ways will work. Which one is easiest for you? Well, you have to tell me that, right? This way at the bottom here, though, is definitely the easiest one for me. I love doing this way. But you may decide a different way is easier for you. I want you to understand how to do them, though. Because adding, either way, regardless of which way we did it, we had to add somewhere, right? So on these first 2, I had to add the 480 to my original 80, right? Same thing when I did the second way. I got my 480 and I added it to my 80. With the other 2, I didn't do that because I just took my 100 and I added 6. And that gave me the 106 that I was able to use in both of those equations. Which one of them I left as 106, and one of them I changed to 1.06 down here at the bottom. Alright, so that's a long enough video for this. On the next video, I'm going to talk about how instead of adding, we can also subtract. So, same idea, just another way of looking at it. Alright, talk to you guys later. I hope these videos help. Bye.